Yes. It's 5 after 7.
Gavel. That was a good group tonight.
We're ready.
Let me call this regular meeting of the North Rock City Council to order and ask that we listen to the roll call by Ms. Whitby.
Gibson.
Present.
Yielding.
Here.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Here.
Berry.
Present.
Vestal.
Present.
Height.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Thank you, Ms. Whitby. Can I ask that we stand for the prayer to be led by Alderman Berry, followed by the pledge by Alderman Vestal.
Our dear Heavenly Father, thank you for letting us meet here again. And as we go into this week, and we know that tomorrow is the day that we pledge our support for the veterans of our country. And be blessed with everybody here, and send a special blessing for Alderman Witcher. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So moved.
Second.
On the minutes of the previous meeting, Ms. Whitby, would you please call the roll?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Berry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
Let's go to communications. Do I have a blanket motion?
So moved. Second.
Anyone care to have any one of these called? There is one that may not be listed that I want to call your attention to. The communication number 10. Tell you what, I'll just be happy to call, hold that one until we do that.
Until legislation.
Yeah,
Number 3.
So 1 through 9, anyone?
Number 3.
Number 3,
Just
any
one.
other? On the motion to accept and file 1 through 9, accepting 3. Ms. Whitby?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Berry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
Would you read number 3, and then Alderman Height?
I just, read number 3 by it, as far as what the purpose of that petition is, please.
Number 3 is from Kelly Sanderson. It's a petition requesting a speed hump on Pontiac Drive containing 29 signatures.
And I just wanted to bring this attention to, evidently, these people that live on Pontiac have got a problem with speeding, and that's usually the reason for the request for a speed hump. So I want to make sure that Mr. Marvin and then Chief Bradley is aware of the request for this speed hump on Pontiac out in Indian Hills, and that they pay attention to maybe we take a look to see what any alternative measures would be to slow the speeders down on the same street. This is the reason I wanted to bring that to our attention.
You have a motion to accept and file?
Motion? So moved.
Motion made and seconded on the motion.
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Berry.
Yes.
Vestal. Height.
Yes.
Could I get a motion on correspondence number 10?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made to accept and file. Let me just briefly explain this. This is a letter from me to the council. We were contacted several months ago by Hal Matthews on behalf of his family, and many of you may know that his father, Justin Matthews III, passed away this past summer. His dad lived in a home that was built on a barge that was along the riverbank located out just barely in the city of Maumelle. We were on one side of the street and Maumelle's on the other, and so it was in the Arkansas River. I know that several of us have had a chance to go out and take a look at it. It's an appraised value of $178,000, and on behalf of the family, Hal asked us if we would like to have it. I'm asking for the council's approval in accepting it. It will take some fixing up. What my recommendation is, and that is that we fix it up so that it can be used. It's got a kitchen, it's got a downstairs, room for some office space. I think it could be an excellent reception place that people might hold, receptions, have events, and those of you who've had a chance to see it, I know we'll have some idea of what it could be used for. Now, it will take some money to fix it up. Obviously, as it was Mr. Matthews' home, there were a couple bedrooms in there, and I don't know that the city would have any use for that, and so that would be renovated either all at once or on a part-time basis, as we could do it depending on the cost. But I would certainly believe that we're looking at investing somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 in bringing that up to the condition of what we would want it in order to be able to use. Now, we can reduce those costs. We can do a little. We can take time to do it. This is not there are not any time requirements on this, and I know that I've asked our city engineering department to look for a place that we might be able to dock the barge. So this is, I think, a real opportunity for us, but I wanted to make sure before I moved any further forward that I visited with the council and had your input. So with that, there's a motion to accept and file. Is there any comments? I will take a motion to accept and file.
So moved.
I did that.
Yeah, there was a motion to accept and file, but what I'm going to do is take us accepting it and filing it as authorization for me to go forward and receive
So you're not going to handle it under, you've got a piece of legislation, are you going to withdraw RO 394? Isn't that the same?
No, I don't think so.
Different deal?
I think there's, let me look at, what is it, RO 394?
Different deal then. I thought that was that.
No, I'm going to withdraw that. That's something entirely different.
Fine enough.
Okay, so yes, so if there are no other comments, then I'll take that vote to accept and file as a vote to authorize us to go forward and receive that gift of the Matthews family, and then make plans to improve that in a way that we'll all be proud and enjoy it. On the motion, Ms. Whitby?
Gibson.
Yes.
Gilding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
Before we go into the public hearings, we've got a couple of presentations. I'd like to ask Herman Shirley. Herman is the chairman of our History Commission. Herman, if you'll come to the microphone, and I'll join you for one of a couple presentations.
Well, I'm sure Mayor and members of the City Council and all the city employees know that next year we'll be celebrating our 100th birthday. And so the History Commission thought it would be appropriate to recognize the early settler families in this city, and we are going to recognize some of them tonight. So, Buddy, Mary Ruth, Maddie, y'all come up here. The first one will be the Frederick and Catherine Riegler family. And the reason they're first is they're the oldest. They came here in 1882 to work on the Rock Island Railroad. And here tonight to accept this certificate is Buddy Morgan, a grandson of Mr. and Mrs. Riegler. So, Buddy, let me present this to you from the City of North Little Rock and the History Commission. And it just so happens that we have a husband and wife team here. Both of them are eligible. And so Mary Ruth Morgan's grandparents, Mr. and Mrs. James H. and Martha M. Lewis, came here in 1902 to work on the Iron Mountain Railroad. You get a kind of a theme there, Mayor? And so, Mary Ruth, let me present this one to you as a granddaughter of the family. And Maddie Robbins is a great-great-granddaughter of Mr. and Mrs. Lewis. So, Maddie, let me present to you. And if Mr. Scott said you can get a shot of this from that camera up there. We took a little time thinking about this certificate when we issued it, and the gold around the edge kind of symbolizes the fine families that settled here. And the silver seal is to remember the years that we were known as Argenta from 1906 to 1917. And then the CA in the middle of the seal, emblazoned on that, if you can see it, in red and white, and red and blue, is from City Hall ceiling out here. And to me, especially tomorrow, that red will symbolize the sacrifice that our sons and daughters have given over the years to our country. And I like to think of the blue as the beautiful Arkansas River that flows out of the mountains of Colorado right on through our city to the Gulf. So we'll be giving more of these, and I brought some. What we do, we get the information on these families, because I happen to know Buddy and Mary Ruth from high school, but we don't know all these families. You might have been here a whole lot longer than that. So we've got some information sheets right over here on the white table. You'll take them, and if you've been here that long, since before 1930, because we've got another certificate we call early settler. So if you've been here before 1930, take one of those, fill it out, and we want to recognize your family. Thank you very much.
I want to say one thing, and that is that, of course, I've always been very proud to be from North Little Rock, and that terrible Arkansas River down there, that it inundated our house in 1927, and my parents, cleaned out the house, moved back in, and Dad always said that he wasn't going to move till it got under his bed. And I remember it getting even with our front porch, but we didn't move, and so we've stayed here right in North Little Rock, and I'm very proud to have had my family here all these years. Thank you. I wouldn't have gotten to have had this young man in my class if it hadn't been.
And rest assured, those of you who may not know, anytime one of Mary Ruth's students, and I had the honor to be in the 7th grade and the 9th grade, civics and Arkansas history, that when you look at your report card, and I'm proud to say that most of mine, in fact, were A's and B's, more A's than B's, as a matter of fact, is in purple ink. So it definitely stands out in your classroom. Let me I'm going to ask the council just a little bit, and I'm going to ask Connie Woodard to come up and stand with me. Connie, you want to come up here? A little bit of out of order, because I'm going to ask the council to have a motion to adopt this. I know it's by voice vote, but I think it's not something that's that much out of character. Don, if you and Debbie want to come up, and first, before I do the resolution that I'd like the council to endorse, I'd like for Connie, as we know, Main Street's an extremely important place to us, and the people who not only are on Main Street, but have contributed to its history and not only its past, but as importantly, its future, we are very fond of and certainly very appreciative of. And so, in honor of the 50 years of continuous support that the Blakey family and the Blakey business have done, I'd like to let Connie, as president of Main Street, to share that resolution.
If I may, this is a resolution that says, whereas Blake's television store was founded in 1953 at 703 Main Street, North Little Rock, Arkansas, by Edward Albert Blakely and his wife, Aline Irwin Blakely, and whereas in 1971 the business was moved to 206 Main Street to capitalize upon increased foot traffic in the area, whereas we're trying to bring that back more and more. And whereas in 1975 the business was moved to 321 Main Street by Don Blakely, son of Aline and Albert. And then Don has, whereas, maintained his family's commitment to the downtown North Little Rock by continually expanding his operations and lines of products. And whereas Don Blakely has distinguished himself as an original incorporator of Main Street Argenta and remains a consistent supporter of our economic development in the city of North Little Rock. And whereas Blake's Furniture and Appliance is celebrating 50 years of continuous operations on Main Street, North Little Rock, Arkansas, therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of Main Street Argenta that Don Blakely is hereby recognized for 50 years of continuous support of downtown North Little Rock and Main Street Argenta. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And before I read this resolution, could I ask for a motion and second for the council.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Ms. Whitby, would you call the roll on supporting this motion and recognizing the Blakey family for 50 years of service on Main Street? If you call the roll.
Yes, sir. Gibson?
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
And Height?
Yes.
Now, I'm going to have to say that I personally wanted to add this, Don and Debbie, and I'm glad that the council adopted this, because if you'll remember, and I don't remember the exact day or year, but I remember coming down and buying a Pioneer stereo system with you, and nice, beautiful cabinets and a turntable and all the accoutrements, and so I helped generate a little of your sales tax for the city back. Maybe it had to be in the early 70s, so 30 years or thereabouts. So the resolution reads as follows. Whereas Don Blakey was born in Berkeley, California in 1948 and had the good sense to follow his parents when they moved to North Little Rock in 1953. And whereas Don Blakey attended and graduated from North Little Rock High School in 1966, once again exhibiting good sense. And whereas Don Blakey exhibited great intellectual capacity and more good sense when he purchased the family's business in 1973. And whereas, and I really appreciate the council acknowledging this, whereas Don Blakey exhibited continuing and surpassing good sense, salesmanship, prudence, and forethought when in the early 1970s he sold a Pioneer hi-fi stereo component system to an aspiring, talented, eager young lawyer with a bright future in his native city of North Little Rock, a beautiful and exciting place to live. Whereas Don Blakey is celebrating 50 years of continuous service to the residents of North Little Rock as a Main Street merchant. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of North Little Rock acknowledges and applauds Don Blakey in recognizing 50 years of retail excellence in support of Main Street, North Little Rock, Arkansas, passed this November 10, 2003. Thank you very much for being good friends and good neighbors. Debbie, good to see you. Don, thank you. You're welcome.
When you receive something like this, I can only think of one thank you, and that's the thank you to the City of North Little Rock and all the thousands and thousands of customers we've had over the years. Thank you.
All right, and so I'm glad the council's on record of endorsing an aspiring young lawyer who is very talented.
Mayor, I withdraw my motion in regard to that portion.
I'm sorry, the only way that can be done is if it's vetoed, and rest assured that won't happen.
No amendments, right?
Murray, why aren't you here to help me?
No amendments. Yeah, Murray's not here. We have a public hearing, and without objection, now, I see Mr. Hilburn and several others that are here regarding the, let's see, it's the $9 million. It's R03107. So let me go ahead and before I call that or open that for a public hearing, let me ask Mr. Hilburn or whoever's going to talk about this to come and let's introduce this a little bit. And first of all, I'd like, as you and I talked a little earlier today, Sam, about the mystery location. The legislation is a little bit ambiguous when it comes to that. I know y'all know what it is, but would you mind telling us, what this place is, where it's located, its address? Give us some of those details. And we in staff meeting this morning had a little conversation about trying to make sure we knew a little bit more flags of what we were talking about.
Mayor, this is in the great third ward in which some of us reside, and this is what's used to be referred to, or still is, I guess, at this stage, the Les Marquet Apartments. They are going to change the name once they, assuming that the council passes the bond resolution, and this is in the Levy area. This was developed about a little over 20 years ago. These apartments were developed, and they have kind of fallen in disrepair. This will be a complete, total renovation of all those apartments, as well as development of a number of amenities to go along with the apartments. The apartments will be what they call, it says low to moderate income. There will be about approximately 20%, which will be set aside for what they say low and moderate income people, and you have to, I think it's something like maybe 50% of the median average income of a resident in the state of Arkansas. The rest of it will be market rate, depending upon what market rate, the market will determine in that particular area. There are over 200 units. I do have here Mr. Michael Wiley, who is with 3R Real Estate. 3R Real Estate. He is the developer, and then Mr. Gregory Brunner, who is with William R. Huff and Company, who is the financier on it. Mr. John Tisdale with the Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings law firm is the bond counsel, and Mr. Clark, who's with Twin City Bank, who will be the trustee on the bonds, Your Honor. They're all here ready to answer any of those questions that the council might have, and I can try to take a stab at any that the council might have, Mayor.
Let me just see if I can refresh all of our memory. The developer is 3R Real Estate Corporation of Dallas, Texas.
Yes, sir.
If I recall, and I have before me a copy at the quality research that was done by the city clerk's office, Resolution 6385, which was passed by this council July 15th of '02, indicates that talks about whereas 3R Real Estate desires to issue tax-exempt bond financing for 47th Street in Augusta. That's the 47th Street in Augusta Circle. Is that the address? In other words, 4700 block of Augusta Circle?
Not for this project.
Okay.
Is Augusta Circle?
Yeah, we use 1707 Arrowhead,
Okay. That's what, it's 1707 Arrowhead, but we're all in that general area with...
All right. Well, I assume that this is the same. This is dealing with the same issue that I know that I came to the council on this meeting, asking them to authorize me because we'd had some discussions about these different financings that required a letter of support from the mayor, and so I brought this resolution to the council on the 15th of July in '02. And the council authorized me to sign a letter in support of the financing for this project. So in some respects, we have already acted on that. What's the difference in that and this?
What the difference is, Your Honor, is Mr. Wiley and them have gone back and they have actually enlarged this project to totally renovate that project. And
also, excuse me,
Go ahead.
Sam, also,
could you identify yourself?
Excuse me, yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm Michael Wiley with 3R Real Estate. We were before you last time in anticipation of a submittal to the State Housing Finance Agency for low-income housing tax credits. And we were not awarded such. So we have moved forward without them. We would be moving down the same path. Had we been granted, we were still going to combine the benefits accruing from that with a tax-exempt bond issue. But the project in its scope, Sam mentioned, has been expanded a little bit and enhanced, but basically, as we talked about at some depth that evening, is still the same.
On your timing of construction, I understand, I think it resulted our conversation a little bit earlier, Sam, about the fact that you're going to be able to do this in stages where you won't have to move out as many people, or you're going to try to allow people to reside there while you're in construction on one section or another. Is that?
That's correct. In a way, we're fortunate in that because time has passed, a portion of the project has not been re-rented. Some of it has suffered some damage. So we have enough vacant apartments that we're going to be able to move people around without actually taking them off-site. So relocation in the normal sense, the normal term, would not be necessary. So there'll be no sort of disruption in that.
Before I open it for the public hearing, is any council member, if you would mind, either asking or answering any questions?
I got one.
Alderman Height?
If had you received your tax credits for back in '02 that you had applied for, what would the mix have been as far as low to moderate housing versus market rate housing compared to the 2080 that Mr. Hilburn stated a few minutes ago was going to be 20% low to moderate?
There would have been a higher percentage than there is. That requirement has a higher percentage of those that meet that test than there are.
So we have a higher percentage of market rate apartments.
Yes.
In order to get that investment tax credit, you have to commit to a higher percentage of lower income.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, that pretty much answers it, but so 20% market rate, and then the rest of it?
The opposite.
The opposite. So you have 20% low to moderate income and the rest of it market rate.
Market rate, and that's $365 to $545, somewhere in that, from the one bedroom to the two bedroom. The part of it, if you have been around in the neighborhood, part of it on the exterior has been done, and some of the interior actually has been done. And the rents that are being obtained for those are right in this area. So we feel fairly confident that the market's going to accept that rent level.
How many units do you think could be done, redone?
There is 242 in total, and there might be as many as 100.
I know, I don't see Chief McCall. Is he here? I know we've had several fires out in that area, and so I personally want to compliment y'all for not letting go of this and trying to move this on forward. And I hope that we're successful tonight. We'll find out in a few minutes. But assuming that that's the case, we look forward to a significant improvement in that complex out there. So we appreciate y'all staying with us and look forward to being a successful venture for you as well as an improvement to the city.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me go ahead now and open this as a public hearing. Anyone that would care to comment on the issuance of up to $9 million, a $9 million bond issue from the Residential Housing Facilities Board for these improvements for the Lamarquis, old Lamarquis, which is going to be new something else. The microphone's open. If y'all would like to sit down, you're welcome to sit down.
I thought we'd stand in case someone had a question, but we'll go. I'll be glad to sit down, man.
All right, microphone's open. Going once. Going twice. Public hearing's adjourned. Ms. Whitby, would you call... Yeah, that's what we're going to do. Would you call R03107?
Yes, sir. This is a resolution approving the issuance of up to $9 million City of North Little Rock, Arkansas Residential Housing Facility Board Multifamily Housing Capital Improvement Revenue Bonds for the purpose of financing residential housing facilities in the City of North Little Rock.
Move for the adoption.
Second.
On the motion.
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Berry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
Mr. Hilburn, you and your party are free to leave and go to work, and I know it's 7:30, so you need to cut your hourly rate off right now.
8:30.
Mayor, we're going out there to start advertising.
All right.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
It's just they-
Let's go back to the regular agenda. Ms. Whitby?
The police department has something on at 7:05, the police department's grant.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Chief, before I call Chief Bradley, if you want to come up and tell us what this public hearing's about. I didn't note that. Maybe yours will go as fast as the other one.
I hope so, Mayor and Council. This is a public hearing that's required for our 2003 LLEBG grant funds. It's required by the conditions of the grant to allow a public comment section, and Captain Doherty is running this for us.
Captain, just give us a brief introduction, so if there's anybody in the public who wants to comment on it, they can do that, and then we can go forward with that hearing.
Okay, I am Captain Doherty with the Police Department, and with me over here is John Barber, our Information Systems Manager. We received an award for a block grant with, including our match amount, is for $89,172. We have 24 months to spend these funds, and we plan to buy more computers, RF modems, software licensings, and similar items that would allow us to continue and add more field reporting capabilities to our patrol officers. These would allow our officers out in the field to put their reports on computers, then they upload them to their supervisors, and the supervisors upload them to the DO, and then over to the support services. This cuts down on errors as it has spell check and also make sure you fill out all the blanks that are needed. And eventually, when the officers get used to it and learn how to use it well, it will cut down on the amount of time they spend with paperwork, and which would allow them to spend more time within the community. So we invite anybody to ask any questions, comment.
Any questions from the council? Let me convene this public hearing. Anyone that would care to comment on the North Little Rock Police Department regarding the 2003 Local Law Enforcement Block Grant, as explained. Public hearings are going fast tonight, Chief. Thank you, Captain Dartery. Appreciate your time. Public hearings adjourned. Before we go any further, I think I'd like to defer a little bit to our city attorney and let him introduce one staff member that's present and one that's not.
Well, thank you, Mayor. As y'all know, Deputy City Attorney Jason Carter left, I think 2 weeks ago today, to go to Fort Hood, Texas, in training that's anticipated to mean a year tour in Iraq. As a result, I'd like to thank y'all. Y'all know this first council meeting I've been to in 3 because I've been helping getting those guys ready to deploy, a lot of long nights, and helping those guys get ready to go to Fort Hood. And gals. And I appreciate you all giving me the opportunity to hire 2 part-time assistants while Jason's away in anticipated 18 months. So as a result, this afternoon at 1 o'clock, Judge Hamilton swore in our 2 new assistants, Colette Honorable, who's with me here today. She comes from the Cawley Geller firm in West Little Rock, and we work together at the Attorney General's office. Very smart, always like to hire people smarter than me. So she'll do a great job. And the other person y'all probably never heard of, former city attorney Randy Morley, has agreed to come back and work part-time as well. So we're excited, and I appreciate y'all giving us the opportunity to hire 2 part-time folks to help while Jason's away serving our country.
And we anticipate now that the magic will come about and that our use tax lawsuit will be resolved very quickly and favorably. And so we can spend that, what, 800, 900,000 that's in the pot right now, Mr. Sisson? So we just let me know when that mandate comes out.
Will do, Mayor.
Thank you very much. And thank you. Welcome to both of you. We look forward to working with both you and Randy as our legal talent continues to make us look good. Can we go to the agenda now, Ms. Whitby?
Yes, sir. Resolution 0385, Alderman Yielding.
Alderman, I am told that there is a contract that has arrived that meets those conditions, and the committee will be reviewing it this week. And the conditions I said, that I asked Mr. Smith, Joe Smith, that I would not, I would oppose anything that did not net us $100,000 or plus, and at one point it was 112. I'll round it off to 100, and that money would be we would be able to leverage with $400,000 to utilize $500,000 worth of benefits to Central Arkansas Transit, and I am told that lease is being reviewed and does contain provisions that would meet that requirement. So I am either asking you to hold it one more time, or to withdraw it based on that recommendation.
Is our representative here?
Joe ought to be somewhere around. I think he might be, back in the TV room or
the radio room back there.
Huh?
He's in the ready room.
He's ready room. And Joe Smith, if you're here, there he is. Voila. Okay.
Could you just give us a little rundown, since obviously you've seen the proposal?
Well, bottom line, I believe it was $112,000 is what we would receive. There are some issues we're trying to iron out as far as liability goes. If there's any damage to any of the vehicles, they would repair it. If the vehicles have to be back here by a certain date, I believe it's August the 1st. They're paying for the transportation to and from. they are paying for part of our visits there to inspect. I think we negotiated a little bit on that, but the bottom line still is $100,000 plus in our pocket once everything is done. They're furnishing insurance on it that would cover us and hold us harmless in the event that there was an accident or something.
Is there any type of insurance in case something happens and they don't make it back? To Pulaski County?
Well,
Give me an example.
Well,
Sure.
I don't know. A truck wrecks with them on there or something.
Well, sure, there's always that possibility.
But they're insured for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're not vehicles, they are trolley cars.
They are
The vehicle demeans their...
Trolley car vehicles.
We'll call them whatever you want to, Mayor.
You're the lawyer.
All right.
Okay.
What's your pleasure? You want to hold it, or you want to withdraw it, or what? Or
Well, I think it's been on there.
The next meeting will be the 6th time.
Well, assuming that they can get these issues ironed out over who's going to pay if they're damaged and...
They hope to have them ironed out this week.
Right, we have a committee meeting Wednesday afternoon. The entire CATA board will vote on it next Tuesday.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll just withdraw it.
Thank you, Alderman. Next item.
Resolution 0394, Mayor Hayes.
We've been informed that that venture is not going forward, so I'm going to withdraw that.
Resolution 03105, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
This is a resolution appointing Ann Clements to the North Little Rock History Commission.
Move for the adoption.
Second.
And we were mailed the personal information sheet, so we need to amend that in.
I'll take that as a form of an amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
That the personal information sheet be attached on the amendment?
Gibson?
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
Now here on
Move
the
the
main
adoption
motion.
as amended.
On the
Second.
motion is amended, Ms. Whitby?
Gibson?
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Ann is in the audience. Ann, I think this may be one of the first. I'm not sure that we have a husband vacancy and a wife replacement, if I'm not mistaken, on this seat. Gary was certainly kind in helping us, and we even are more excited about you becoming a part of that commission and look forward to continued great things. Thank you, Ann. Next item,
Resolution 03106, Mayor Hayes.
please call it.
A resolution accepting the low bid of LEECO Incorporated for the purchase of leather firefighting boots for the North Little Rock Fire Department.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Motion made and seconded on the motion.
Gibson?
Yes.
Yielding?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Vestal?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
Resolution 03108, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
This is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with MRA International Incorporated regarding a waterfront master development plan.
Second. Let me just underline my interest and hopefully the council's support of this. I know we've had several studies that have resulted in plans. One of the more recent was a $60,000 study 4 years ago that had to do with the development of an aquarium and an urban entertainment district. I know that a lot has happened in 4 years. The gentleman who is the principal that will be conducting this study if the council approves it, MRA International, is a gentleman by the name of Gorman who was here 10, 12 years ago and assisted those on the south side of the river in developing the river market plan. I had a chance to visit with him several weeks ago, and his enthusiasm for this area was evident. His ground work, having been done on the south side, is very familiar with the area. So he brings to us a real, I'd say, not only quality but background in terms of what I hope we're going to try to do. The Clinton Library 4 years ago was not about to become a reality. Maybe even hadn't been decided then. I'm not actually up on what 4 years ago exactly took was exactly of the picture. But if it wasn't very much of one. The Heifer Project, the Foundation's commitment to spend $4 to $5 million on the Rock Island Bridge. The public having the ownership of the Junction Bridge was a desire, and the shutting down of that rail line was not anywhere close to a done deal. Obviously, our trolley line, as we had the rocky road that was concerning itself with the latter stages of moving forward on the trolley system. What other things? The activity in terms of residential development. And I know that the contact that I've had by various both property owners and the Glover Brainerd folks are very interested in perhaps being able to assure themselves that if there is a development that goes forward, their property, if you might recall, is right at the end of the Presidential Library Bridge, are very committed to trying to make an exciting thing happen. And the thousands of people that are going to be looking north in what's one of the most beautiful views out of that Presidential Library complex is the bank of the Arkansas River on the north side. So I think it's really important that we are able to go forward and to decide as a community what we'd like to see happen down there. And I'm also going to focus, if this is adopted, on legislation that this council might be able to consider that would ensure the kind of development that plan would ultimately give us some direction toward trying to achieve. So with that, let me just open it to any questions, and I'll be happy to answer them. Alderman Thomas?
Mr. Mayor, I know the intention is good, and I know the people that you're proposing to work with they're top-notch people. The only thing is we've done so many studies. I know for the last 40 years, we've done a lot of studies, and that's the reason that I sometimes wonder if that's worth the money we spend, because the developer that's going to come in certainly will do his own study. And I know even the $60,000, I understand a moment ago, I didn't know that we didn't pay all of that even, but we didn't pay all of that because we decided that wasn't a good deal.
Well, there were two things, Alderman. One is there were two studies, and one we stopped because we weren't achieving what we thought, and finished a lot of that ourselves. The study with regard to the $60,000, $25,000 was contributed by 50 for the Future, and I think another significant segment was contributed by the Economic Development Commission. So the city itself on that one didn't pay very much, if any.
That's the only thing. I know the intention is very good. I'm not questioning that at all. The only thing that I do remember, even that I questioned even at the time, even the studies we did even for city employees. I'm not even sure that we got our money's worth there. So I guess I'm always a little leery of these studies, because so many times we kind of put them on the shelf and kind of forget about them. But like I say, I know the intent is good. I'm not questioning that in the least, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope this will develop into something real great.
Alderman, I don't know that I disagree with you on your comments, and I was, I won't say hesitant, but I certainly was a little bit leery of bringing this to the council because of exactly what you say in a lot of instances happens. And I wouldn't have brought this to the council if I didn't see the things that are taking place that I just mentioned in my opening comments. I mean, these are not dreams with the library and with the money that's invested. We have over $1 million grant that was given to us by the Highway Department to improve the Junction Bridge. Money has been set aside sufficient to build a pedestrian overpass over Murray Lock and Dam. So these things that obviously the arena is up and running. I know that Ray Tucker of the Arkansas Sparks Hall of Fame tells me that facility will be under construction sometime early part of next year. So, if this was 4 or 5 years ago, I would be a lot more leery than what I am now. In addition, some of the people that actually own the real estate are interested perhaps in even partnering with others in developing that property themselves in a joint fashion. And in order for them to be comfortable in going forward, they want to know who their neighbors are going to be and what type of neighbors that they're likely to be in terms of fitting in with the conformity of a plan. So, I agree with your comments, and rest assured, if I didn't think that this $25,000 wasn't an investment that will produce results much more than the investment, I wouldn't be bringing it to you. The other thing that I need to ask, and I think we could go ahead and do that if I could before I go on with any other questions, we need to amend it to indicate that money will be taken out of the general fund.
I've got that amendment. You used to have a section 2 that said that the amount of $25,000 is hereby appropriated from the general fund.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
On the motion to amend?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
Any other
That's
comments or
amended.
questions,
I'm sorry.
Alderwoman Robinson?
I'd just like to make a comment. I'm in favor of this, and I would like for our side of the river to look just as good as, the other side of the river. And
Better.
Well, better. Better. So I'm in favor of this piece of legislation. I think it's good.
Any other questions or comments?
Well,
Alderman Knight?
I'll echo her sentiments. My question was, of course, I think there's a lot that we can do at this side of the river, and I'd like to, one of these days, go to my grave knowing that I was part of developing the north side of the river. I've always been one that's been a proponent for, doing more on Main Street and doing more on the riverfront, and maybe we can get some of those people that are spending their money on the south side of the river to spend their money on the north side of the river. And when that Clinton Library opens up next year, I want them to look north, and I want them to have a reason why they want to walk across that new bridge when it's fixed up. My question is that the aquarium, we did a study on the aquarium. How does that figure in this mix? And the second part of my question is, does the various property owners that own property down on the riverfront down there, are they going to participate in this study and get some feedback from them?
The answer to the second one is yes. We're going to have a variety of ways for folks to participate. There was an outline that's given in the agreement. Upon approval, I'll visit in more detail. I think you might note in the outline it refers to dates that seem to indicate that this thing is going to be finished. Actually, it's going on right now. Well, obviously it's not. I had some things that needed to be done before I brought it to the council. Or should we adopt it tonight, then I'll visit with the company and finalize the details, and we'll move forward with it. The other question that you asked is, the study that we did relative to the aquarium will be used. I mean, a lot of the information in there is valid. It had to do with different kinds of economics in terms of market area, market analysis, different things that some of which we can use, and I'd say a lot of which we'd be able to use. That study, as I mentioned to you, cost $60,000, and not a whole lot of it was paid for by the city, but some perhaps was. But that is a good basis that we can use to build on, and I think this can give us some real tools that will give us a chance to go forward. So yes to all your questions. Any other questions or comments? Do I have a motion to adopt as amended?
So moved.
Ms. Whitby?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
Resolution 03109, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
This is a resolution expressing the willingness of the City of North Little Rock to utilize federal aid monies.
Move the adoption.
Second.
Mr. Boyles, tell us where that is, and are we asking for 72 or half of that?
It's the federal funds is $72,500.
So then we're going to be matching 72.
And we'll be matching that. As y'all recall, when we built the hydro plant, we purchased property next to the plant to run the lines through Burns Park. The state asked that we develop Campbell Lake as a park. This will accomplish that. This will stretch our trails out, split off from the river trail over to Cook's Landing, and it was approved this year by the Arkansas Recreational Trails Program, and the electric department will be matching that.
Alderman Thomas?
I just
if
had
the
one.
budget's approved.
I guess I had one question. To get the federal aid monies, we have to designate certain areas that we're going to spend the money.
Yes, sir, you have a map attached that
Okay, now,
shows...
where are we taking the monies from to put into this project? Aren't we?
We can use in-kind money for some of the work.
I'm talking about the federal monies, because one time I know the highway department, some of the fellows kind of complained to me that we don't really keep our commitment on how we're going to spend it. We keep moving it around. And I thought we had to have some type of plan already and as to how these federal aid monies would be used.
No, this is a separate program.
Okay.
We've always spent these monies exactly, and we only can spend them exactly with what they're approved for.
Okay.
We applied for this and,
Yes, we did.
and indicated in our application, this was not a give me or
Correct.
guarantee. This
We
was-
submitted 3, and we got 1 of 3. And it
Any
was
other
all-
questions? Where are we going to get this money, Mr. Sisson, or match money?
Mayor, we've been putting together the next year's budget, and it is in the electric next year's budget.
Okay.
Question?
Alderman Height?
Are we going, Mr. Road, are we going to pave this trail? Do you know? Is this going to be paved?
We will have to pave this trail under this program.
So it's going to connect by the little bridge, where the two 90-degree turns are, right just before you get there. There's gravel now. It's going to go on the north side of that. So we're going to add a loop to the biking trails that we're doing. Good.
Where are we, Mr. Boyles? One of my main desires is to build a bridge over White Oak Bayou there toward what's our road out there?
Young Road.
Young Road.
We submitted a proposal to the Arkansas State Parks last week, and at the deadline, or I guess it was October 31st. But those we've not heard from. We're hopeful to have those.
That to me is that one bridge is going to open a whole route out there. So I sure want you to polish that apple and let us know how we can do that.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Boyles. Do I hear, I think a motion made and seconded on the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas. Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
Resolution 03-110, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
This is a resolution authorizing the purchase of an emergency response vehicle for the North Little Rock Fire Department under state contract bids.
Move for adoption.
Thanks. On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
And Height.
Yes.
Ordinance 03-86, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
This is an ordinance waiving formal bidding requirements for the purchase of a mobile command center vehicle for the North Little Rock Police Fire Emergency Service Department using Homeland Security Grant 203, Part 2 monies. First reading.
Move to the rules, place the ordinance on its second reading.
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
An ordinance waiving formal bidding requirements for the purchase of a mobile command center vehicle for the North Little Rock Police Fire Emergency Service Departments using Homeland Security Grant 2003, Part 2 monies. Second reading.
Move to the rules, place the ordinance on its third reading.
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
An ordinance waiving formal bidding requirements for the purchase of a mobile command center vehicle for the North Little Rock Police Fire Emergency Service Departments using Homeland Security Grant 2003, Part 2 monies. Third and final reading.
Question. All right.
Who's gonna, well, I don't know who to ask it to.
Chief, you want to come up here? Look, I know Lee's out of town.
Is the fire chief here?
Yeah.
He stepped out. Lieutenant Brecken is with me, and he's been working on this project, putting
Oh,
together
okay.
the specs.
All right. I just wondered who's gonna drive this,
There'll be people trained on the police and fire departments.
police and fire. So the police people are gonna do better than. I mean, I look at the dents on the fire on the police cars and the no dents on the fire trucks. So I just want to make sure y'all get somebody
There's
really
more
trained.
police cars than there are fire trucks, though.
20 or 30,000 miles a year difference in
The fire chief put me up to that. I know y'all are doing a great job. Thank you.
We'd be happy to call them to drive it and move it for us if we need to.
Oh, man. All right, let's get a motion to adopt on
Motion.
third and final.
Second.
Motion, there's a second on the third and final, Ms. Whitby?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
On the emergency, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
Ordinance 0387, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
This is an ordinance vacating and abandoning certain portion of Cooks Landing Road to coordinate the realignment thereof. First reading.
Move we suspend the rules and place on second reading.
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
An ordinance vacating and abandoning certain portions of Cooks Landing Road to coordinate the realignment thereof. Second reading.
Move we suspend the rules, place it on the third reading.
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
An ordinance vacating and abandoning certain portions of Cooks Landing Road to coordinate the realignment thereof. Third and final reading.
On the question?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
On the emergency, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
Ordinance 0388, Alderman Barry.
Alderman Berry?
Call it, please.
This is an ordinance rezoning certain property located on the west side of the north end of Councilmancy Road in the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas from I-2 to R4 and C3 zone by amending ordinance number 3171 of the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas. First reading.
Move to suspend the rules, place the ordinance on its second reading.
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
An ordinance rezone certain property located on the west side of the north end of Councilmancy Road in the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas from I-2 to R4 zone and C3 zone by amending ordinance number 3171 of the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas. Second reading.
Move to suspend the rules, place the ordinance on its third reading.
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
An ordinance rezone certain property located on the west side of the north end of Councilmancy Road in the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas from I-2 to R4 and C3 zones by amending ordinance number 3171 of the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas. Third and final reading.
On the question?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
On the emergency, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
Ordinance 0389, Alderman Barry.
Please call it.
This is an ordinance rezoning certain property located at 508 West 47th Street in the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas from R3 to C3 zone by amending ordinance number 3171 of the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas. First reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place it on second reading.
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
An ordinance rezoning certain property located at 508 West 47th Street in the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas from R3 to C3 zone by amending ordinance number 3171 of the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas. Second reading.
Move to suspend the rules, place it on third reading.
Second.
At some point, I've got a couple of
On the
questions.
motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
An ordinance rezoning certain property located at 508 West 47th Street in the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas from R3 to C3 zone by amending ordinance number 3171 of the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas. Third and final reading.
Alderman?
What's going in here?
It's, he can tell you, but
Mr.
it's been a
Walls?
barber shop for a long time, barber shop, beauty shop for a long time, and the zoning has been wrong.
Can't you put barber shops in C2?
Well, this is on residential.
Yeah, but we're taking it to C3.
It was discontinued. Yes, you can put a barber shop in C2.
I mean, once you get off of Camp Robinson and you start up that area there, I get a little concerned when you start getting C3 because I know the uses can go in C3, and if they just want to put a barber shop in there, I'm happy with C2, but I just don't think you need C3 that far up 47th Street.
Why do we need C3, Mr. Ball?
I think that was what was requested. We don't need it.
I'm either to amend it or send it back because I don't think you need C3. You're getting into.
Is the applicant here?
He is here. Good deal.
Saved you, Robert.
Robert was happy
Let
about
me
that.
wondering if you could accept C2. rather
Yeah,
than
it was
C3.
C2. Actually, I requested for a C2, and I'm surprised to hear you asking for a C3.
I'm sure it's staff mistake then.
All right, I hear a motion. Alderman Gibson moves that that be amended to C2 from C3. Motion made and seconded on the motion to amend.
Amended from, in all instances, take
Yeah, in
out
all
C.
instances where it refers to C3, it needs to refer to C2.
Two.
C2. On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, now, okay, one other question. I mean, I understand in Section 2, it can't be used as a resident. A little confused about this. Vehicles cannot park in front of the building and back out onto the street.
The Planning Commission wanted them to develop a parking lot in the rear.
It just simply needs to say that there be no vehicle parking in front of the building.
Okay.
That's simply how it needs to be put. I mean, say they can't park in front of the building and back out on the street.
Well, backing out on the street is illegal to start
Illegal.
with.
It's already illegal, but I just want them to know that there'll be
Been doing though.
no parking in front of,
Why don't we
Do
say
you
that?
think we ought to amend that to say that?
well, vehicles cannot park in front, however you want to put it. Parking for this facility shall be behind the building rather than on.
No parking in the front of
No parking in front of the building, period. I think that takes care of it. But then back out onto the,
Does that present any problems?
Not at all. The parking is behind the building.
Okay. So then, Mr. City Attorney, you want to tell us where we want to put that statement? There shall be no parking or business parking in front of the or parking in front of the building.
What I would do is leave it as it is, except for cross out everything after the word "and." So in other words, Section 2 would say vehicles cannot park in front of the building, period.
Okay. Ms. Whitby, did you get that?
Yes, sir.
Alderman Berry moves. Is there a second?
Second.
On the motion to amend?
Gibson.
yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
One side note, Mayor, he can park a trolley there then.
Absolutely.
He just got to run his own
Move
track.
it for adopt, we're on the third reading, move
He has
for
to run his
adoption.
own track.
As
As
amended.
amended.
Second.
On the motion?
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
On the emergency, Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
That concludes new business.
Any council member? Alderman Thomas and then Alderwoman Robinson.
One of the things that I'll be meeting pretty soon with a number of people in Dixie in the low areas along East Broadway. And I do hope that in our new budget, the next budget, we can earmark monies for the Redwood Tunnel. Because it's time we start doing that. There'll be a time when, surely there'll be a time when we will get an okay to do that. And our part of the funding is going to be substantial. So I do hope that there's a substantial amount will be into this next budget next year for that Redwood ditch.
Let me tell you what my thinking is, Alderman, and that's why you may not see a substantial amount in for that. It's my intent, that when we find out what we need to do that, the amendment to the Constitution gave us the authority to borrow funds and pay them off in a 5-year period. I'd rather actually know what the amount is and then immediately go and get it than to have funds tied up in a way that it may be some period of time and we may not know exactly what it is. So just let me say to you that while at this point I don't anticipate that there'll be substantial funds for that, I do commit to you that once we find out exactly what it will take, that the next council meeting I'll be in front of this council asking for the authority to borrow sufficient money to take care of whatever match we have to have.
And we'll be paying interest on that. I know tonight we've set aside, $72,000 or so for next year, one of the projects. I just hoping that we could put $1 million or so aside, and then if we never get the federal money someday, we'll have the money to do the project.
As I indicated to you, Alderman, it's still my intent at this point to not set aside funds, but not to indicate that lessens in any way my commitment to assure that the funds are there when the need's there, or when the ability to put the financing together is there.
That's what I'm scared of. It might go to the point that none of us are here, and there'll be no money there, and some future mayor and council will have to face that problem.
Any other council member?
One question.
Alderwoman Robinson, yeah.
I have two things.
You first.
Thank you. First of all, I have a comment to Alderman Gibson and Height and Barry. Some of my constituents contacted me regarding, in agreement with you all, wanting restaurants, that information to become public, and they were for that. My only thing is that if you're working on legislation for restaurants, that you also consider daycares and other businesses that require health and safety codes to pass health and safety inspections. My second comment or question will go to the city attorney. So many times, Mr. Attorney, we have people that will present a special use of rezoning before the Planning Commission, and they sit there and they work up, recommendations for the special use, and the person is in agreement with the recommendations. Now, once they get their permit, they go off and they may not follow completely on the recommendations. I know that we can revoke their permit, but how many have we, revoked? What I'd like to see is that we charge them a fine. And I want to know, is that possible, starting at $250?
Absolutely. There's two methods of enforcing zoning ordinances. Actually, in that case, there'd be three. One, the city council could revoke their special use and they have to cease operations. Two, we could cite them for violating the zoning ordinance, which was adopted. Or three, we could file a lawsuit and get an injunction to stop them from exercising the conduct in violation of the ordinance. So whichever way y'all want to do it, it can be done.
I know you have a comment on that.
Well, my comment, and I agree with you, very much so. One of the things that I've asked Ms. Grayson to do is to provide us, Ms. Grayson, I guess I need to borrow you at the mic a minute.
Yeah, I just received a note from Ms. Whitby. I think there is a public hearing that's been called for the next council meeting. And that regarding to the daycares. And that Ms. Grayson is going to provide a representative at the next council meeting regarding restaurants. Is that accurate? So there'll be some discussion about that.
There'll be some discussion. I think one of the things that I'd ask Ms. Grayson to do in this discussion is to get us a list of every daycare center that is licensed to operate within the city of North Little Rock from the state. And I think we can take that list, go back to the legislation, look at the things that were required for them to do, and see if they're even still in operation. And I think that's the first step. And then there's several other steps after that. Hopefully we will discuss that in the next council meeting. But I guess I'm concerned. We've had a rash of daycare centers open in North Little Rock, and it has to do with welfare to work and the fact that they need to have a place for their kids to be while they're off getting school. There's no problem with that. But we're also having a lot of daycare closings, major daycare closings. And I want to know if those are permitted. And we've got one particular, it's about 38th Street, that the area around it's an old church, but the area around it, and code's been out there and they've been trying to work on them, but there's more trash around that thing than you can ever do anything about. But it was a licensed daycare center at one point. I just like to see the list. Everybody see the list, and we work from it from there. I don't know if you're in position to give us that list yet or not.
I have that list ready, and I can pass that out
You'll pass it out, and if you got...
tomorrow. I can give it to Diane tomorrow. I have one copy
Okay,
tonight.
if you'll pass it out and make sure the press also gets a copy of that also, because it becomes public information.
One other thing, Alderman Thomas, I just want to mention, I'm sure you're aware that next year the Highway Department and Alderwoman Robinson is set to begin construction on the renovation of East Broadway. So, there is some significant effort and funding that has been directed toward that project, not only by the state but the city too. So, I'm at least I want to repeat that our commitment is to address the needs of Ward 2 and to address them on a timely basis. And next year, as you well know, that East Broadway has been a project we've been working on for 40 years, perhaps. So we're slated to start construction on that next year. So it's It's not ignoring it if it's not in the budget. It's a commitment to address it when it matures. Alderman Height?
I think we touched on this subject last council meeting, and I think Alderman Gibson may have brought it up, the fact about boarding up houses. And is there a length of time that a house can be boarded up? Do we need to address that subject at a future council meeting or what? And I'm referring to a house that's on a major arterial that's going to be in view if and when, and it's a matter of when, the Bass Pro Shops, the shops at North Hills go into existence. People coming from the Interstate 30 down 13th Street to get to the Bass Pro Shops are going to pass a couple of houses that have been boarded up for, I can't remember when they weren't boarded up. And I just wondered, do we need to work on that at future council meeting as far as limiting the length of time that a house can be boarded up?
Well, I'm sure there's some length of times that are there, and maybe it's just you telling, there's not? Okay.
Not that's being enforced. Now, and I'll excuse me, I do this too often. I was apologizing to the assistant city attorney.
I mean, again, I recognize what
we
you
have a
say,
house
but I'm
on
just-
Lock Ridge that's been boarded up for probably longer than I've been on this city council.
Still standing?
Still standing.
Tell me, Mr. City Attorney, is it an enforcement problem or is it a legislation problem?
Actually, I believe it's a legislation problem. We have no ordinance on the books dealing with abandoned structures. We do have a draft in my office that Mr. Carter did before he left. It's what's drawn up. There's two different ways you can approach it.
Well, wait just a second. And we don't have any legislation. How long you been on the council, Alderman Gibson?
21 years.
21 years?
Whose fault is it? It's my fault.
Now, I will let you know that...
Owen's been here 23, though, so...
Okay, it's both y'all's fault.
It could be addressed by, technically, you could enforce the housing code and say every property, whether it's abandoned or not, has to comply with the housing code. But there's a lot of cities have adopted ordinances that's kind of like a mothball ordinance that gives people a certain amount of time to have one boarded up till they can take action. So I think that'd probably be the preferable route.
The worst case about this one, Mayor, there's nothing wrong with the house. It's not an abandoned. They mow the grass, they trim the bushes, they do all the other things.
That's difficult.
And it's not an abandoned house. And
They're right.
and that's the things we need to address. And probably I don't want to touch this until January because we've got some very interesting subjects in regarding to restaurants and daycares and budget that's probably going to occupy a good bit of our time in the rest of November and all of December.
We've got time to work on it come January.
And we'll have time. There's one other thing, probably, and I would say, and I didn't bring in it was never taken forward, but probably 10 or 15 years ago, there was some discussion of putting a fee on a special use. It was an annual inspection fee, and I think it was probably $50. That code would go by there on an annual basis and check and make sure that the person's complied with the zoning with a special use, and if they didn't, then you take some action. Or if it was special use for something and the people walked away, what do? It reverts back to its original use. In special use, it can be zoned C2 and special use to C3, but it's not ever zoned C3. It stays C2. And I think that probably, and it's simply enough money to pay for the inspections and do the reports. It's something we need to look at in time.
Well, if that's on the books.
It's not on the books.
Oh.
We never got past the discussion of it.
Oh, okay.
But there was some opposition because of, everybody thought we ought to do it for nothing.
Well, I'd be willing to go along with that, but $50 is not enough. It should be more than that. 10 or 15 years ago, we're talking about.
There are a lot of things we can work on. That's why we meet twice a month. Alderman Yielding?
Normally I don't do this, but Robert,
What do you mean normally you don't?
not at the end. Can you just prepare some legislation that will put this in the hands of the Planning Commission, and I want to sponsor that. And what it would do would let the Planning Commission review these special use permits and then make recommendations to the City Council as to whether we should revoke these or not. And would that be something the Planning Commission, I think they already have talked about this, And I would like to see it from the Planning Commission and then direct it to the City Council, and then whatever ward it's in, we could, we'll deal with it when it comes up. And then that way we'll know if people are actually using it. And also, I think it should be from the Planning Department to check on this and not necessarily from the Code Enforcement Department. Well, if we don't have somebody, then we need to get somebody, because that's where all the documentation is, and that's where everything is with the Planning Department. Well, the building inspector or whoever, somebody could do it, and that way Robert could have his hand on it, being the planning director. But I think it should be coming from the Planning Commission and have those members look at it and then bring it back. And if you could prepare something like that, I'll sponsor it.
Okay, we are working on a rewrite of the zoning ordinance.
Right,
and
do that.
It would be a good time to do that.
Good time to do that.
But one thing Little Rock does that's better than ours is on their conditional use permits, they do have their planning commission have a review once a year.
Correct.
Or a year after the use goes into effect.
Right.
And that's done by the
And that's what I'm talking about. Put that in there to have them 1 year. No, every year have them review the special use and what's going on. And put that in a database, and you ought to be able to do it pretty good.
I'd like for you to add the other stuff too in the ordinance, like the ordinance we had tonight. It was on conditional use. This has conditions with it.
Yeah.
We have
That's what I'm
several
talking
ordinances
about.
that have the same conditions. Well, this is not a special use though. This is a rezone.
We had one of those last time in our ward. Same
Yeah.
situation where
Well, we'll take care of that in the zoning. We're rewriting the zoning ordinance, so we'll take care of that in there. But this specifically has to do with special use, and
We do have a
that.
draft on that, and I'll send
Right.
you a copy to get you
Okay.
involved.
All right. Yeah, Murray and I are on that
Yes.
committee, so we'll take care of that.
All right. Wait. Remember, we're just kind of having a little bit of discussion. We're not writing next council meeting's legislation, so.
I quit.
We sure going to, right to speak is going to be very well protected, but let's see if we can just kind of keep it going.
well, are you going to be at next council meeting?
I don't intend to be.
See, so we need to talk about this and hear your input now before we pass it next meeting.
I'll send
And
a
you
letter.
come home and veto if you don't like it.
If I didn't like it, I'd do that. All right, thank you very much. Any other council member?
My comment, even in sending it back to planning, for planning to review it, work on the legislation, that's fine, but I still think that even if we go out on a yearly basis to review the conditional use, if they're out of compliance, I think that there should be a fee.
I think it should be for both. I think it should be
Be both
an
of
inspection
them.
fee.
Public hearing, anybody, public comment? We're open for public comments. Anyone wants to come to the microphone? I think Chief Bradley has an introduction of one of our new police captains, or our newest police captain.
Yes, sir. Mayor and City Council, I would like to introduce or reintroduce, probably for most of you, our latest captain, Captain Mike Davis. Mike's been with the department about 17 years. He's most recently served as a lieutenant in charge of narcotics. Has previously served in patrol. I'm excited about his promotion. We've got some great plans at the police department. But I wanted you to those of you that didn't know him, to know his face, because I know from time to time you call the department and for information or what have you. And I wanted you to see the face on the other end of the telephone.
I think, Lieutenant, I know you and I go to the same church.
Captain now, Mayor.
Pardon?
Captain now.
Did I say Lieutenant? I'm sorry. Captain Davis, and I understand that that you are a product of the North Rock school system, and like Chief Bradley, have by and large grown up in our department. So congratulations.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
We're proud of our 4 captains, and certainly proud of our newest one.
Thank you.
I'll do my best by telling you sorry.
Microphone's open. If you'll identify yourself and feel free to make your comments.
Mayor Hayes, members of the council, my name is Reverend Brenda Tillman. I am the pastor of Riverview AME Church in Ward 2. We've been in the area for over 100 years. I am a new pastor, and I have a community development organization called Hope Restored. We are beginning to work in the community. We have a couple of workshops going about once a month now. One is called Finding a Job is a Job. It's a workshop designed to sharpen the tools of its participants in interviewing, resume writing, and negotiating a salary. We also are implementing a literacy component with that because we have found that there are people who cannot read and cannot fill out applications, even in 2003. And so we have a little information, if you will allow us to distribute it, and I'll introduce those who have come with me.
Sure. And we welcome you, and certainly the history of your proud church. We're glad to hear of it.
I have with me Norva Johnson, who is a literacy instructor, and I have with me the treasurer of the church, Mrs. Brown. I believe most of you are familiar with Ms. Brown. She's been a long time resident of Ward 2. We have our 501c3 status. The Community Development Corporation is not a part of the church. It came when I came. So, right now we're Hope Restored is using Riverview as a place to have its workshops. We are seeking a house in order to provide services from. So you have the information. I will be contacting you and the council later on as to how we're progressing. We're not trying to move a big mountain all at one time. We're going to go to some of the schools that we know are in trouble as far as testing is concerned, to contact those counselors in a couple of schools to see how we can help one child at a time if that's necessary. Then we'll be available before summer employment to help teenagers fill out applications, know how to interview, that kind of thing. And if you consult my resume, you will find that I'm more than capable and definitely willing to do this. I've been working for the Department of Human Services for 14 years. I spent 6 years as a family service worker, 3 years in child care licensing, and now I am in personnel. Been in personnel for the last 7 years. So thank you very much for your time.
Well, we appreciate Madam Pastor, and I'm going to turn it over to Alderman Thomas. Your interest, we have an Office of Neighborhood Services that provides certain things that we can work with you in some of the areas that you may have mentioned. Rest assured, we are enthused about your enthusiasm for what you're going to do, and we look forward to trying to support it in any way we can. Alderman Thomas?
And you're already working in the Little Rock area across the river, aren't you?
Yes.
And so she's
the city council in Little Rock is very familiar with me, especially Hinton, Willie Hinton.
Well, we thank you for coming on both sides of the river. We'll make sure your past does not have any limitations on it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Microphone's open.
So moved.
Second. On the motion.
Gibson.
Yes.
Yielding.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Berry.
Yes.
Vestal.
Yes.
Height.
Thank you, Barry.